Okay. So you said that like some of your stuff was with Haven, right? Like the curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
the
so
online course.
okay, and then do you like send out a survey, or does someone send out a survey with like the health services, and it has something about sexual assault on it?
Clarify what you...
So like we like campus wide we like take this survey and it has to do with like sexual
survey?
assault.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So do you know like any like astounding results from that survey?
No, not yet. Because the data was just collected.
Okay.
And so I don't do the analysis.
Okay.
Dr. Rosemary Ward, I think she's the associate dean for the graduate college, and she also was a faculty in EHS, the KNH program, the kinesiology and health. And so she, I think, is the principal investigator, they would say, like on the survey. So she is doing the analysis, and then also Dr. Mike Kerm, who's a faculty member, is also doing some analysis on the data, but I don't do the analysis. So that's what they're doing now.
Okay.
So all the data was collected right before spring break, and then they'll be kind of like digging through all of that and creating some reports to give back to the community, the student community, to let them know, like, here are the highlights of the data. If you want to see from ones in the past, if you go to the Dean of Students website, they have the past results of the student health survey on there.
They do. Okay.
They have little like brief narratives. There's like one about alcohol, there's one about sexual or interpersonal violence, and then there's one about mental health.
Okay. Perfect.
There's also one about food insecurity, but I'm not sure that that's what you're doing. But yeah, go to the Dean of Students webpage and you can get last year's results.
Okay.
Perfect.
Which
does that data with the sexual assault things on there, does it usually match up with like the amount of like sexual assaults that are reported compared to what actually happens? Like,
no.
Okay.
So what's actually reported is way lower than the actual incidence of sexual and interpersonal violence. So what you'll see on the student health survey is we're just asking students for a whole spectrum of sexual interpersonal violence. So unwanted touching, harassment, to penetration, to rape. Like there's a whole spectrum of questions that are asked about that. And so students can report either if it's happened while at Miami or if it's happened in their lifetime. So there's two different, because some students are experiencing that in high school, but bringing, trauma with them that we want to be able to respond to. So that would be on the health survey, but what actually gets reported here could look different.
Makes sense. So like with Haven, do you think like it is effective, like the curriculum and everything? Do you think it's like effective on this campus?
Sure. So, but let me explain first two things.
Okay.
It's called Sexual Assault Prevention for Undergraduates now.
It's not called Haven anymore.
Yeah, when you went through it, it was called Haven Understanding
Yes.
Sexual Assault. So it's had a name change.
Okay.
So the first year students this year had a program. It's the same concept.
Okay.
They tweaked it a little bit, updated it, and now it's called Sexual Assault Prevention for Undergraduates. So SAPU. So when you're talking about that, depending on your audience, some audiences won't know what Haven is.
Okay.
So just so you know that.
Yeah.
So what that course does is it's not a prevention tool, right? It's not like, oh, people are going to go through this online class and not rape, right?
Yeah.
But what it does is that when students are in high school, some students are coming from schools where they weren't even allowed to talk about sex,
Right.
right? Some students are coming from schools where they talked about sex, they talked about sexual health, they talked about contraception, they talked about consent and rape. Like they had these conversations. So students are coming to Miami with a whole host of experiences, and we can't anticipate who has what knowledge.
Right.
So SAPU is designed to get everybody on the same page. Let's have one conversation all together through this online module so people understand the terms, that they understand what rape is, that they understand what sexual assault looks like, that they know how, at a very minimal level, that they have some skills to intervene because they have already recognized some red flags of what to be looking for, right? So we start priming students so that they're prepared to come onto campus and have these conversations and learn more. So in that respect, yes, I think it's very effective because when we see students then, like in the UNV 101 class, which I'm not sure if that was available to you.
It was, but we didn't have
But
to.
they didn't
have to take
they
it
didn't
yet?
require us to
Okay.
take it.
So the first year students now go into that class, go into the UNV 101 class or some alternative of that depending on their major, and they'll get like a follow-up. They get a booster. They get to talk about it again. They go through Step Up, which is the bystander intervention training.
Okay.
They go through that, and
Okay.
sexual interpersonal violence is part of that training. So it's kind of like staggered so that people can build on the information that they have, and SAPU is the very first step.
Okay.
So yes, I think it's effective, but understand what we mean by effective.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's not like prevention tool technically.
Right. I mean, it's a primer, and so some people would call it universal prevention, in that all people are being exposed to the same intervention.
Okay.
Right. And so it is primary prevention. It's actually universal prevention is the accurate term for it.
Okay.
Everybody's getting the same information. The information is to alert them and make them aware of sexual interpersonal violence in an effort to build on prevention.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes.
that
Okay.
does. And to build off of that,
Mhm.
do all freshmen now, are they all required to take UNV 101 where they do this step
No.
up program? And
They're
okay.
not. We have about 60 to 65% of first year students do go through
okay.
UNV 101 class, but so some majors do not require it.
Okay. Is that something you would like all freshmen to have eventually?
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
we do other pockets of folks too on campus. So all the first year students that go through UNV 101 will go through a Step Up. We also do sexual and personal violence training with all athletes.
Okay.
So they get another dose, if you will, of prevention and information and education.
Is that new that all athletes?
No, we've
have?
had that
Okay.
for several years now, actually.
Okay.
What is newer is that all coaches and athletic staff are required to go through a training that we provide for them too. And that's through NCAA, and Miami's athletics have always been very committed to this issue. And then also all new Greek members. So if you join a fraternity or sorority, then you have to go through a course called Greek Step Up, and it's co-facilitated by Greek leaders and by our Hawks peer educators, and they deliver the program. So we get different groups of folks. So by the time you are a second year student, about 75-85% of our students have had some kind of interaction with bystander intervention training, plus what they already got in SAPU, which was kind of like the foundations of bystander intervention.
Great.
Okay, so speaking of prevention, I know you like mentioned a couple like organizations that are like on campus. So can
Yeah.
you speak more about like what Miami does for like prevention?
About the
like,
student
it's
orgs,
on
or
us, yeah, so
Okay.
like just
Sure.
like student organizations on campus that.
So
help
let me
with
start with
prevention.
student organizations.
Okay.
So the different student organizations that exist on campus, and I'm not going to get all of them, right, because I don't know all of
Right.
them.
Yeah.
I know the ones that we've interacted with the most. So F-Word, which is Feminists for Radical Democracy. MARS, which is Men Against Rape and Sexual Assault. PAVES, which is People Against Violence and Exploitation and Sexual Assault, I believe. And then we have the Hawks, Peer Health Educators, who go through a 1-hour credit course and become trained to deliver programming. I'm trying to think, who are some of the other, student government.
Okay.
They have safety officers, as well as the president and vice president have been very committed to these efforts as well. And then the off-campus senators also have been involved. And all those students have different ways that they want to express awareness or prevention or education. Mostly it's awareness efforts that come out of the student groups, which are very important. You might see like Take Back the Night, the Clothesline Project. A lot of the student orgs are involved in that to just kind of raise awareness to folks. And they are like independent, right? So the student orgs don't per se like I guess like get funding from the university to do that work. Like it's students who are passionate about it. They get funding through ASG like any other student org.
Okay.
The It's On Us campaign is coordinated by the Sexual Interpersonal Violence Education Outreach Prevention Coordinator, which is in our office.